All right. Well, I think pretty much everybody's here. We'll go ahead and get started today. Welcome to Mazévo Connect. My name's Brian Peck. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Mazévo, and I'm joined by a few of my Mazévo colleagues here today that'll be going through the presentation. Here, I've got Claire DeGroat, who helps me out on the sales team. Here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see everybody a little bit better. I've also got Angela Covington here, one of our software trainers and support techs, and Joe Finley as well, who does the same thing. And then finally, Dean Evans, our CEO. So we'll all be going through today's subject, which is Mazévo Ops. Before we jump into that, though, just wanted to make a few announcements. We are actually in the process of looking for a new software consultant slash salesperson. We had someone who recently retired here on our team, and so we're looking to replace that role. If anybody on this call is interested in that, please reach out to us. You can send me your just information there, and we'd love to talk to you more about the role, and I can get you some more details on that. I'll put my email here in the chat momentarily, and you can reach out with that. Um, Also wanted to just let everybody know we just got back, I did anyways, from a little road trip. I was at two conferences here this spring, two higher ed conferences. One was for college conference and event directors, ACEI, which was out in Louisville, and then ACUI, which was for college unions, and that was in Pittsburgh. So it was great to see folks in person. Had some really good conversations there. A couple of things that really stood out to me at those conferences there were one, the universities that I spoke with all seem like there's a lot of activity going on right now. I spoke to a lot of universities where, enrollments are up, things are busy, a lot of events being scheduled, things like that. And it was just interesting because you contrast that with all the uncertainty that is out there right now. And I noticed with both conferences, overall attendance was down. And I think that speaks to some of this uncertainty. I think some, universities are probably not doing quite as well as others with things, but the ones that were there were definitely busy. So that jumped out to me a little bit here. But yeah, so anyways, those were my announcements for today. Our topic here today is going to be on Mazévo Ops. Now, if you haven't been to one of these webinars in the past, what we typically do here, we do these every month, and we'll be going through today's topic a little bit. I'm going to introduce it here. While we're going through the topic, if you have any questions, you are more than welcome to just type them into the chat in Zoom, and we will be watching for those, and we can answer those as they come in. We will also have some time at the end for Q&A, and sometimes that's easier if you want to unmute yourself and just ask your question that way. So you can do that as well. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. Now, I wanted to kind of introduce things a little bit before we show you anything with Mazévo Ops, because you're all probably coming in with a little bit different knowledge levels here on everything. So, I guess the big thing that I want to say first is, event operations, as I think everybody on this call knows, are fast moving. It's often unpredictable. Operations teams typically in the past have relied on printed reports, radios, quick conversations to know, what needs to be done, what needs to be set up, things like that. A lot of the coordination's happening in the moment, and the goal is to just make sure that everything's ready when the event starts, right? But as you all know, information changes, details can get missed, staff are not always looking at the same information. So there's a lot of things that make it challenging, especially too, because no matter how well you plan all this stuff, issues are going to come up, during the event or maybe just before, things like that. And it's how do you respond to that stuff? And so event operations is, multifaceted thing. And so I wanted to first just ground us on like, well, what is event operations? When we're talking about event operations, I guess at the high level, the way to think about that is it's everything that happens once the event is booked prior to the event actually happening, right? So it's just like things like AV deliveries, security, staffing, last minute adjustments, things like that. All of that is what we consider event operations here. And so the challenge is just making sure that everything happens exactly as planned. And so Mazévo has an operations component that's built into it to help your event team manage that part of the process there. Um, because it's not about just scheduling the events, that's part of it, but it's just making sure that the work around those events is clear, visible, and completed as well. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, on this webinar, we've got a big mix of folks here. Some of you are already using Ops today. Some of you are just coming here because you're curious about it. Some of you may not even have Mazévo and you're just kind of interested to hear more and things like that. That's all a good place to be. We're going to be kind of covering, the gamut here with that. So just wanted to say that as well. And also, that this isn't going to be a deep configuration session about ops and exactly how to set everything up in the system. We'll touch on that a little bit, but mainly the thing we want to be focusing on is how people use these tools day to day. And so that when you leave this webinar, hopefully you've got, one or two ideas that you're like, oh, we could implement that, or, this is something we could think about here. So that's really the goal with this. I am going to ask a few polls here during the session, so I'll be putting those up. I've got my first one here ready to go in just a minute. So it'll be a little bit interactive that way as well. And let's see. I hear somebody that is not muted. Let's see here. I can't tell who that is, though. Get to that in a second here. Yeah, so anyways, those were the things that I wanted to say. I do want to start off before we jump into it and introduce our first presenter here. I'm going to start off with a quick poll just to kind of see where everybody's at. So let me pull that up and let's see here. I'm going to launch our first poll question. So if you look at your screen here, I just popped up the poll question here. Go ahead and take just a moment to answer. I want to see where everybody's at on this call here, just to get a sense. All right, I see the results starting to come in. Excellent. Looks like we've got a mix here. All right, just another moment. Just make sure everybody's got their results in there. Okay. All right. And let's see what we got here. So it looks like we've got a big group. Almost half the group here is using Mazévo Ops for visibility. So already using it a little bit, which is great. And then right behind that, we have a group that's using mostly paper-based reports or mostly paper-based for ops. So, and that's, again, that's traditionally the way ops has been managed. So that is not completely unexpected there. And then everybody else is kind of at different areas there. So, yeah, all right, good to know. All right, well, to start things off, I'll introduce our first presenter. Joe Finley is going to start things off for us today and talk a little bit about the different ways that ops is used and show you some details on how it's typically used in a lot of organizations. So with that said, I'd like to just go ahead and turn it over to Joe and we'll go from there.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joe Finley. I do most of the onboarding training with Angela, and I've worked with a lot of you that are on the call today. So welcome to the Mazévo Connects for this month. We love to see you guys every month. There's always some new topics. You can always learn stuff. We've even said that on our team. Angela and I both back and forth. We learn stuff from each other every day of something that comes up. Because Dean is always putting those new features in for us. Anyway, so today we're going to touch on how the operations functions within Mazévo work for your operation or can work for your operations. Now, I want to start out by saying you can choose the level of granularity or detail that you want to use this function within your business process. You don't have to go the full gamut. You can go anywhere in between. You can use it just to view events that are there and ready to go and so forth, and just go with that. We're going to show you kind of a mid-level of that, where we're going to have me playing a role of the manager of the process. And then we have Claire and Angela that are going to be the workers. So I'm going to be the manager that's responsible for two different service provider organizations and staff. And that's what we're going to go through. And then at the end, Dean will kind of review a few other functions that come into this as we go. So I'm going to jump into the manage operations. I'm a global administrator. Well, this user is not a global administrator. This user is a manage operations user. You can see they have access to events and all the reports and everything, but operations is where we're going to land today. So I'm clicking into manage operations, and I'm going to give you some orientation to this screen, and then we're going to kind of do some actions in it. So you got to remember the hat that I'm wearing is I'm a manager. I do have staff. And so the first thing that you want to do when you come into operations to set this up is, we'll get down to the different tabs in a second. But the first thing you need to do is just, if you're not responsible for everything, which I know a lot of you might be, we're going to go into this settings menu here in the upper right. So this allows you to kind of make sure the work that you see on the screen is focused on what you need to see only. So in here, I have a locations tab, and I can go by building or by room tag for selecting what buildings I am responsible for. So I don't have any responsibility for these outdoor areas in this demo database, but all the other buildings I am responsible for. Okay, so I've got all my buildings checked off. The next tab for setting up again so that I can see stuff, I'm actually looking at different statuses. So I've got to really know what my workflow is in my business to know then which statuses I need to see. So I want to look for bookings that are in confirmed request, request changed, or tentative in my workflow. Anything else, if it's in another status, it won't show up. The third tab is my service providers. So this is a list of all the service providers that are configured in this demo. And I'm responsible for the staff that does audio visual and does room setup. So room setup is going to be Angela, and audio visual is going to be Claire. All right. So just to kind of point that out, that's what I'm selecting. And then as a manager, I have this option here in my settings to assign my staff. So this is where I'm simply picking who my staff members are. And the reason that I'm picking staff members is so that I can assign specific work to them. And that's the functionality that we provide here, so that then they can see that work of what they need to actually accomplish. Again, if you don't need to do this granular detailed within how to manage this, you won't have to set up a staff. Okay. So I've got all that in, and that's where my work is going to show. Okay. Now the page opens up defaulted to the current date. So we're going to be focused on today's date, being that we have events in the system. And we're going to also look at tomorrow's, because as a manager, I'm preparing today's stuff, but then I'm also looking a day ahead at what's coming tomorrow, and I need to get those events ready for their customers to show up, okay? Now, we're going to start out here on the bookings tab. We have bookings, we have services, and work items. Bookings tab is where I want to start out. And I am checking off here to say show only my service providers. So if there was some other items in there, you can see I deselect that and I jump down to where there's 11 bookings in there versus just the 5. So there's other work going on out here at my business. The items, if I want to filter also on what has changes, I can do that. And then I can also plug in if I want to see just work on my individual staff member or so forth. So I can do that. Those are just your filtering options. And as with most Mazévo excuse me, screens, we have the export option if you do need to export it out to paper or Excel. We highly recommend, however, working within the application, which is why we're also going to show you the different interfaces here shortly if you're on a mobile device. The reason is because of that change option. You say has changes in there. So if something changes, then you actually see it right away and you're not stuck with some exported data or some paperwork data, okay? I can actually see that there's a column in here called changed. I'm going to go through all these fields in a second, but I wanted to touch on the columns that say changed in them. The changed is reflective, this icon being here, of any bookings or services that were changed within a setting on my tenant. Our default is 14 days. So that's why I'm seeing those change items still there. You may need to narrow that down. You can simply let us know it's a setting on our side, Mazévo side, to make that change, okay? Now, first thing I'm going to do is kind of explain at a high level the difference between the booking tab and the services tab. A booking tab is really focused on the booking for the day. The services are going to be the individual resource or service items that need to be accomplished, which is typically what I'm assigning to a staff member, okay? So just know that that's the base difference between the two tabs. They do show both the same event booking services information because I can see down here that I have services. I can hover over these and I can see some little items in there for what each of the icons represents. So we have our event number here at the beginning. We have our event name, our start time and end time. Those are pretty self-explanatory, as long with building and room, and the services icon, pretty basic event information. Now, I'm going to go through a few of these other things because there may be data fields here that you haven't seen before or heard about what their reason is. On the bookings tab, we have this field called last, and it's presented a number in hours. This is when the last event occurred prior to this booking within this room. So it gives you, the operations manager, a view of how long ago the room was finished or had been used by another event. The next hours is a field here to tell you when the next meeting is scheduled for that room. As you can see here, I have 17 for both of those in this first one. This first one took place this morning at 7:30 to 12:30. Again, these times are representative in my time zone for my computer. And so 17 hours prior to 7:30 this morning, there was a meeting in this particular multi-purpose room. And the next one's not due until the 17 hours from 12:30. And you can see my other bookings I have here. They don't have any next meetings coming up. So therefore, I'm not pressured into getting them ready too soon, okay? But I can see when the last ones were. The other one is a fairly new data field that we've recently added, which is a head count field. This is an actual attendance data field that you can populate. As a manager, you can simply click on that and populate that data. Now, it's going to be key within your business process for you to make a decision and determination on who's going to be responsible for that. Because this field, as you'll see within the other workers, they have some access to that as well. Okay. Statuses, that's the booking status. We need to be aware of that because that is some different data in a moment with the services one. We have our ready, means the meeting is ready to for the event to take place. I have my changed one. We have chat and we have work log. Dean will get into the work log a little bit later. And then we have the chat option, which is basically if I need to chat with any other event planner in Mazévo, I can actually click to chat with them about anything if I need to set something up. So before I go to the next tab, I want to show you that down here on the room, we can also see that we have access to the diagrams. So if you use the upload of diagrams within your setups, you can actually see those in real time if they change or whatnot. So that's that little icon there in front of the room. Okay. Now, if I need to action on some of these as the manager at the booking level, I can click on the name and I can open it. I can see all the event information at the top. I can see it has a room diagram here. I also click and it would open like I did a minute ago. I can see the different services that are available on this. And here I can actually see that the audio visual and the room setup have both been completed by my worker team. So this one is actually ready for me to say set as ready because I don't have any other responsibilities here for me to do that. So now then I've set them as ready. When I close this now, we can now see here that my checkbox for ready is now checked for that booking. So that booking is ready. Okay. The other ones happen again. We're a little bit off on our time. I know that because we're in the afternoon, but we just caught up with our time. So we have a couple more here that I am going to be doing some work on and assigning. I'm going to show you that on the next screen, but you can do that assignment from here. So I guess I should pop that up because I can actually assign. Oh, that one I already did assign. Sorry. Let me get to another one I didn't think I assigned. Yes. Here's one that is not assigned that I could assign it to the staff. And again, at the booking tab level, I can see all of these that I'm responsible for. Okay. Okay. Now then, if I want to see the individual level of services, I'm going to click on the services tab. You can see the names of those events. Bookings are simply repeated when there's multiple things due. So let's run down these data fields, our event name, start time, end time, building, room, service provider, and services. That one might be a little bit confusing there for folks. Services are going to be the services defined in your resources that are on that resource item. So not all of your resources are tied to a service. This one has most of them as the room setups. I'm going to show you one in a minute that has another one. Usually it's catering, like delivering of catering or delivering of this or that, or picking up of this or that. And those become the services that you see here. The status, this is the status of the actual booking. And look, now I have a field here called assign to, so I can see that assign to real quick here. And then I have my services status, which means that I can see whether these particular services are completed or ready for for the event to take place. And I can see that I've got 2 assigned here for Angela and Claire that are not done. So that means they have not done their work yet. I do still have the changed icon, and I do have the chat and the work log again. And I think I missed on the last one. You do also have the ability to open the event from here if you want. But I want to, let me see. I want to, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click there. I wanted to simply click on these other ones that do need assignment. And here's one here. Oh, this one is audio visual that is unassigned. Because I'm on the services tab, I'm only seeing audio visual. Okay, and I can assign it. But I did want to also mention, you see this event time here? It's in a different color font. That tells you that that is what has changed in the last 14 days. Okay, so that's important to know that little font thing. So this is audio visual. So audio visual, I know for my team goes to Claire. So I get to assign that to her. Okay. And then it will reflect over here that it is changed. I can go to my fundraising one for my room setup and assign that one to Angela. So this setting services tab lets you assign it to those workers on an individual basis. Now, one of the things that you do have to do on this page is you use your refresh button so that you get the data to show when you make changes. It's the way most of our pages work. We're basically pulling the data, you're looking at it and reviewing it, and then making the change. And so you do need to use that refresh button. Okay. Now, again, I showed you here how I could assign on the one page, one at a time. If I go back over to the bookings, I can go to the A+ meeting, and here I can assign room setup to Angela and audio visual to Claire. So it's a matter of what is best for your business practice on what you need to do about that particular item and getting it assigned to your staff. I can also see the status that they have it in, and I can see notes and instructions there. Okay, if I need to. So that's what I would do for today to make sure these events are there. Last thing is I'll go forward. Typically, I'm looking a day or so in advance. Here's that same page, but on a different date. I can see my statuses, but I don't have anything ready. So I would typically probably go into here and assign the staff in here to do the work as well. Because we have 3 different bookings. So I say, yep, let me get that over to Angela and to Claire for them to perform their duties, and they will then be able to reflect that in their part of the presentation. Room setup. Okay. And again, if I happen to want to look broadly about what's going on, I can look at all the services that are happening that day, and I can see some other things that are in here that are going on, but they're not mine. I can also then use this filter to say, okay, what did I assign Angela to on this day? I think I did assign something to her, these 3, and so forth. That's how the filters work. So again, you get to define how your manager uses these pages to see the different data. You've got a lot of pieces of the puzzle here. You can use small amounts of it, or you can go very detailed in getting your worker staff to come in and perform those duties, and then you can set the items as ready for the event to take place, which could be either you as an event planner looking for that information, or the actual event planner outside of a managing organization to actually come and review these and see that they are ready for work. I'm sorry, for the event to take place. Okay. I believe I've covered everything. Is there any questions that I need to address right now, Dean or Brian? Or are we good?
Let's see. One just came in here. Oh,
Maybe
Laura's asking if there's suggestions for compatible diagram programs. Mazévo should work with pretty much any diagram software that you have. Mazévo doesn't do diagrams in the system itself, but you can use anything else. Social tables is one we hear all the time. All seated, which I think is called something else now, is another one we've heard of. Even Visio is one that some of our customers use. So pretty much works with anything out there, but if you've got specific questions, let us know. Um, Before we turn it over to our next presenters, thank you for that, Joe. I do have another poll I want to launch here and just get everybody's feedback on their current operations challenges. So let me bring that one up. Um, I've just put a poll up here like, where are the challenges for you in event operations today? I'd love to see what everybody says on that. So if you could just take a moment to go ahead and answer that, and then I'll share the results with everyone here. Okay. Looks like the results are coming in kind of spread out, but there is a clear leader here, which take one more moment. If you haven't answered yet, go ahead and put your answer in, then I'll put the results up there for everybody. Okay, I think we've got most of them. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end that, and let me share the results so everybody can see those. So last minute changes or surprises. I guess no surprise there. That's That's always the challenge, right? And then the next two right behind it, pretty much tied. We're tracking whether work is actually completed, and then too much reliance on paper or verbal communication, right? So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that feedback there. Stop that. All right. Yeah, I want to go ahead and Claire is now going to show you what this looks like from the point of view of somebody who's actually doing the work, who's doing the service delivery, whatever that is. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Claire now.
Thanks, Brian. So I am still on my computer here, but I'm going to go to my phone. So you can pretend that I'm a worker and I'm on my phone. I've got those same little menus similar to what Joe had. I can also make requests. That's why I have two, but I'm going to go to this operations piece here. And it does come to today's date. Now, these bookings, these events are everything going on today. Once I check this little box, it's just going to show my work. So now I just have the ones that Joe had assigned to me. And similar to what Joe was showing you with that manager, you can go to settings and you can pick your locations, you can pick your statuses. And I'm just looking at audiovisual because that's all I care about. So here I'm going down my list. I have only my work. I can see I've already done this one because it's got the little check mark here, but then also here. So if I keep going to this campus activities, if I click on it, I'm going to get a little bit more information. I know someone was asking about setup and tear down and where you see that. It would be right here so they can see it right up front when the setup and tear down is. This one again has a room diagram, so I can click it and then I can see the diagram. Now it's going to obviously go off my phone, but you'll be able to see the diagram. So I can do that. Now, right now it's in orange. I haven't started it yet So if I wanted to, if I noticed something and I want to make a note of it, this little icon here, I could add a note. Maybe I saw some damage on the wall. Someone punched the wall. I don't know, making that up. Hopefully not, but you never know. And then this one, you could take a picture. And so then the picture would show up and they could see a picture of it. I'll mark it as complete. And once I do that, it's going to assign me to it. So you see my name there. And then now when I go back into that event, it will show that it's complete right here. And then I can keep going down my list. This also has services that I could look at. Again, I can see those little icons for a room diagram. And then if I uncheck this box, and I go to the next day just to see what's going on, I can also see that let me make sure this is mine. It is. So then I can look at this one for tomorrow, just be prepared for it. Work items, if you want to assign work items, you could think of a work item as something that's not associated with the event. Maybe you want the AVT, maybe you want me to check the light bulbs or, you know, clean up the trash cans or something in the area. These can be either assigned or they can just be there. So when people finish their work, they could do something else in the meantime if they get done quicker. So that's really what I wanted to show you. You can also bring this up on a tablet so you have a little bit more space, but that's what it would look like on your phone. So I'll stop sharing.
Okay, I think I'm up next. Brian, you don't have another poll, do you?
Mhm.
Okay.
You're
Okay, my
muted.
turn. Okay, so I am going to share my screen as if I were on a computer. Maybe I'm not using my phone today. So I am your Angela operations. I'm on the setup team. I need to see what tasks I need to complete during my shift. You'll see that I also have requests because I'm a student. I'm in a student organization. I need to book space. So, but for today's activity, we're going to look at the operations menu, very similar to what Claire showed you and what Joe's shown you. This is just from that service worker perspective. You can also see, you can see what Joe showed you, the bookings tab. So I can see just everything that he showed you. I can go and look, at each of these items. But as a service worker in this aspect, it's really easier to go to the services and look at what has been assigned to me. So as I can see here, actually, I was going to show only my work, but it looks like all 5 of these have been assigned to me. So if I select that, it's not going to change. But if for some reason there was one that was not assigned, it would only, it would filter it to just my name. So I actually want to show you on mine, my setting is just a tad different, is that I selected this show setup and teardown time. So that's why you can see, and I only selected room setup, but you can see the setup and teardown times are listed here also. So I'm going to go, I did a few this morning. So I was at work early today, already did some setups. So I'm back to do some more. And let's go to this campus activities event. Very similar to what Claire showed you. This screen's going to display, give you a summary of the event. It has the contact information, the room diagram. I think all the room diagrams are the same. And then also, again, this shows it's not started yet. You can use in progress. If, Joe says, when you get to work, make sure you select in progress so I know you're there and I know you've gotten started on it. But then when you're completed, you can complete here. You can add a note. We had a broken table today, so I didn't have enough to do the setup. Maybe take a picture of it, upload a picture. Maybe in that scenario, I need Joe to know right away that something was wrong. I'm going to send him a chat. We have this little chat feature. So I'm going to select chat. I'm going to go find my supervisor, Joe Planner, and I'm going to let Joe know. Sorry, I'm moving things around here. Hey, Joe, there was a broken table. I don't know. I won't finish that, but can you help us find another one or something like
Mhm.
that you might want to send to Joe? And then that way he gets a message saying that, oh my goodness, they need help. Maybe I don't have maybe I don't have his phone number. So let's see. So chat, is there anything I missed on here? I don't think so. Oh, I did want to go to tomorrow's also. I want to see what I've got going on tomorrow. And looks like Joe has assigned a lot of things for me to do setups tomorrow. So I can always look ahead and see what else is in my future. I think that's all.
And everything?
Okay, I think so.
Okay.
All right, Dean.
Awesome. Yeah, Dean's going to go in next and talk about a few other things. And Dean, I don't know if you saw, Mike had a question about a Gantt chart view. I don't know if you just wanted to pull up that event book just so you could kind of see what that looks like as well.
Yeah, Mike, this is the tool I was referring to. Um, is this book view? But you need to have special permissions to be able to get to this. A normal operations worker would not have access to this view. It's typically for event planners, but you can grant this operations person a special role where they could get to these without having the ability to edit events if they were a view only event planner. So where I want to jump in today is look at manage operations, and there's one last little area here that we want to touch on, and that's work items. So everything under the bookings and services tabs here, those are tied to bookings or events. Work items are things you want your staff to do that are not tied specifically to an event or booking. And so here's an example of those. I've created one for audio visual. Go check all the projector bulbs. And then another one here, go hang the room cards. The way you create these is simply click new and say, I want to create something for audio visual, straighten, clean up the AV closet. You can put some other notes in there. Is this a single date, or do you want it to occur on a series of dates? So you have a start date, end date, and a day of the week. So if you wanted this every Wednesday, you'd uncheck that and leave Wednesday checked and put another date in there, and it would create a task or work item on all of those different days. You can actually leave it just without a time, or you can actually put a time in here. And you can assign staff if you want to right here, just create the work item and then assign the staff later. This option right here says, I want this work item to continue. Some people have used this because they have the same thing going on daily and their workers are not completing the task, if you will. So this will carry it forward until it's actually completed. So you could put it on a single date, and if they missed completing it on the 27th, they would see it again on the 28th. So there's an option to keep it alive if they didn't do that. So that's work items. And again, you can assign it, you can search for that all right in here. I showed you the recurring. The one other feature I want to kind of talk about is this head count, relatively new feature here, and it's only on the booking tab. What this allows you to do, there's a few people out there that actually want to record actual attendance for a booking. And so until recently, you didn't have a place to put that. And now it's exposed here because we think your operations folks are going to grab that. And all you do is click on that and say, I had 35 people. So somebody's looking in the door or the window and they're counting the attendees for that event. They can come in here and key in the actual attendance there. Now, how do you get that on a report? It's all under analytics. So I've come over here and I've got analytics here. And what I did was I want to analyze my room usage by total attendance. I want to see it all. And when you run that, the attendance here is going to be, this is really your setup count. And then this is your total head count. It's different. So that's how you would get to that number. So now all of the magic here happens through security. So the way you would set up a user. So I've gone into settings and users, and I'm over here under operations. So here's my little operations user. So there's 3 specific roles that you can grant people for this, and they're all service manager. They all begin with service. You have a manager role. This is what Joe was using. So he had that thing checked. Service worker. This is what Claire and Angela had checked. So it distinguishes whether you can assign work and do the set as ready. There's one other distinguishing thing. If you're a service manager, you're going to be able to run the work log. And I'll go back here in a moment and show you that. Service reviewer, think of that as kind of a read only. I just want to see events out there. So you can't make any modifications. That service reviewer role would give you review events. And so if you come in here, it's kind of a streamlined version of that. If I come into baskets of South America, again, I can see things in here. So there's nothing I can do. All I can do is view the event. So that's the review component. The last thing I wanted to touch base on here is this work log. Think of this as just who pressed the buttons, right? So if I look at today, for all buildings and all service providers, I can come in here and I can see who's been clicking this. So Baskets of South America, the setup, Angela went in and changed it to completed. And then here it was assigned to Angela. And then you can see, the booking is ready. Joe clicked that button. So it's telling you, keystroke by keystroke, roughly what they've done. Now, this is also the place that you would see the notes that were uploaded. So if Claire talked about adding a note, hey, there was somebody punched a hole in the wall, that would show up in this work log. And any photos that you take would show up here in this work log, and you could click on them to actually see it. That's about the only place those would show up. If I go back to manage operations, you also have the ability to see the work log right here with this icon. So you can click on that, and it's going to take you to a filtered view of the work log for everything that's happened on that one booking, Baskets of South America. So a couple different ways to get to that same data in there. So I think that's all I wanted to kind of touch on. So we'll kind of open it up for questions. So
Yeah.
right.
Thank you, Dean. Yeah, some good questions have been coming into the chat here. I've got one last poll question I would love to bring up here for everybody. And it's just based on what we've shown you here today. Do you have any next steps in mind on things that you're hoping to implement based on what you've learned here today? We'd love to kind of hear your feedback on that. And one thing I'll mention with this too, if you need assistance with any of this stuff, or you're like, wow, that looks great, but how do I set that up? Or something like that, we are more than happy to help you with this. So you can reach out to our support staff. We can set up a session with you to kind of go through this individually and help you get things set up that way. So don't feel like you got to figure all this out on your own based on what we've shown you here. All right, I'll leave this up for just another moment and let you go ahead and answer these questions that are in here. All right, got some good questions coming in as well. Great. Okay. Excellent. I'll go ahead and share the results here with everybody. Thank you for answering my little poll. And Here's kind of where everything ended up. Looks like track task completion is the first one here that folks are interested in implementing. So yeah, that is a good one, especially if really want to take that next step from just letting people view the information so that you know where are things at if we completed stuff. That's a really good one there. And some of you are still thinking about it. And that's fine too. You know, there's a lot with this. So um, all right. Let's see. And it looks like here, I think Dylan's got a question in here. Would notes be something other service workers can see? For example, if I have 3 people over the course of a day who would work on a set, could they leave notes about the progress of that for others to see? Does somebody want to take that on the Mazévo side?
I believe the answer is yes. You'd have to use that work log on the actual item, whether it's a service or the booking, and you would see all of the notes there.
And then Lester's asking, is there a way to assign someone to set a room for a future date, i.e. set up tomorrow that I want to set for today? So there's like a setup that's going to happen, you know, later this week or whatever. Can you go ahead and assign people into the future? Yes. Quick answer to that is yes, you can assign people out. I do know one of our customers, Stanford School of Business, that's exactly what they do. They probably do that heavier than anybody that at least I'm aware of. They assign every bit of work to someone, and I think they do that on a week by week basis. So somebody goes in for the entire week and they'll just set everything for that week that way. So yeah, you can absolutely schedule people ahead of time.
Yeah, Lester, on that manage operations screen, if you're the manager, you're just going to scroll forward or to the date you want, or click on the date and pick one if you want to jump to next month. Click on it, get the date that you want to assign the work, and then click on that particular booking and go ahead and assign it. So
Great. And Kelly's asking here, this is more of a question for the group, so feel free to chime in on the chat here, but she's wondering if anyone is scheduling students to do these tasks, or is it only like full-time staff that you're scheduling there? I think a lot of people do schedule students, but I'll let people, you know, Cindy's saying, yep, we assign our student workers to that. I think that's relatively common. Hmm. Meredith's saying, yeah, they schedule students, but they just put it into the work item versus using the assignment feature that we showed you there. So yeah, like Joe was saying, you don't have to take it all that way where you actually assign folks if you don't want to. A lot of times people, you know, just take the first step of like, well, let people mark it as complete, but we're not going to actually assign people to that yet. But you can always, you know, add that at a future date. Okay. And if you want to ask your question by unmuting yourself, feel free as well. We do have a couple of minutes left here. Okay, Laura's got a question here. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Can the specify setup time be hidden to requesters and only have the specify customer access time to avoid confusion for requesters that don't understand how much setup time is needed? Laura, that's a great question. It's something that over the years we heard a lot of, and if you've been using Mazévo for a while, you know that you could ask an event question is how I think some customers did it, where you just asked a question, hey, when do you want access to the room? For the reason that you mentioned, a lot of times requesters don't have any idea how long it's going to take your staff to set up the room, right? But they do know that they want to get in there early to do some of their own setup. So just what was it, Dean? 2 weeks ago? Not even 2 weeks.
Weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's less than 2 weeks ago. We literally put in this feature that you're asking about here, Laura. So there is a setting now in Mazévo where you can expose this customer access time to your requesters so that when they're putting in a request, Mazévo is going to ask them, how much time do you need before your event and or after your event for your own purposes? And that is independent of what your staff is going to need to set up for their event. So that is in there now. Dean is showing that to you. It's on the security policy. And yeah, you just need to enable it on the security policy and it'll start showing up there. Katie's saying they love it. Okay, awesome. Wasn't sure if anybody's using it yet. It's so new, so that's great. It's great to see. So good stuff. All right. Well, I don't think there are any more questions that I see rolling in at the moment. I want to thank everybody for participating today. We had a good, lively discussion there with your questions coming into the chat throughout this, which was great to see. I hope this spurred some good thoughts on your end on how to use some of these features or utilize some of this stuff a little bit more. So thank you for participating today. I'll be sending out the recording early next week so you can watch this again or share it with your friends, whatever you want to do. And then we'll be getting April's Mazévo Connect here scheduled soon, so stay tuned for that. I'll let you know once that is figured out for next April. But thank you everyone for joining today, and hopefully we'll see you next month.